The wooden rocking chairs remain lined up on the porch, like they have been for 50 years. But the empty parking lots behind them reveal a different reality. Cracker Barrel made a desperate move in August 2025 that triggered a nationwide revolt and forced them to backtrack in less than a week. That logo fiasco was merely the final crack in a foundation that has been crumbling for a decade. The story of how America's favorite country store went from a highway icon to a brand fighting for its life involves alienating their most loyal customers and a disastrous billion-dollar loss in value. Understanding this collapse requires remembering just how dominant this machine once was. Cracker Barrel spent decades as a carefully engineered trap for highway travelers, rather than just a restaurant. Dan Evans founded the company in 1969 with a brilliant strategy that located every store right off the interstate, offered clean bathrooms, and forced people to walk through a nostalgia-filled gift shop to reach their table. This worked so well that by 2019, they were selling 11 million orders of chicken and dumplings a year. They accounted for 1% of the entire US restaurant industry's traffic, which is a staggering number for a sit-down chain. It became a cultural ritual to visit Cracker Barrel after Sunday church, but they forgot along the way that nostalgia is a fragile product. The first major warning sign appeared in May 2024, when the company's stock went into free fall. After trading proudly at nearly $180, shares plummeted to near $40 in a single brutal week and wiped out hundreds of millions in value. Management responded by slashing their dividend by 80%, which felt like a betrayal to investors who saw Cracker Barrel as a safe income generator. The new CEO, Julie Fells-Massino, admitted the brand had lost its relevancy, and this corporate confession sent shockwaves through the industry. This was more than a bad quarter, because they were admitting that the entire concept was becoming obsolete in real time. Cracker Barrel made a mistake in August 2025 that business schools will likely study forever. They quietly unveiled a new logo in a misguided attempt to look modern. The iconic old-timer sitting by the barrel was gone after gracing their signs for nearly 50 years. A Jiven text-only yellow logo that looked like it belonged to a tech startup took his place. The backlash was instantaneous and violent as social media erupted and loyalists called it the erasure of their heritage. The outcry was so deafening that the company issued a public apology and reinstated the original logo just days later on August 27th. This quick reversal proved that leadership had no idea who their actual customers were. If you're fascinated by the rise and fall of American empires, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We track these business stories every single week. We also need to examine the other changes that drove customers away. The logo was only the most visible problem. A strategic transformation inside the stores was dismantling the brand's identity. Executives decided the old country clutter was dated, starting with pilot locations in 2024. They began removing the lattice dividers, taking down the antique farm tools, and painting the warm wood walls a stark white. Customers on TikTok compared the new look to a hospital cafeteria or a sad Chip and Joanna Gaines project. Genetic minimalism replaced the unique atmosphere that felt like grandma's house. They stripped away the specific elements that made them unique and left behind a shell that felt like every other chain restaurant in America. MySQL confusion followed the design changes. The kitchen started pumping out items that made no sense for a country store in a frantic bid to attract millennials who weren't coming anyway. They introduced bee sting chicken tenders and experimented with quinoa bowls while shrinking portions of the classics. The biggest divider was the alcohol, because Cracker Barrel had been a dry, safe haven for 50 years. Rolling out beer, wine, and mimosas nationwide did more than add a beverage option, because it changed the room's energy. A significant portion of their religious customer base felt the family atmosphere had been sold out for a quick profit on Chardonnay. Cracker Barrel's core promise was always honest food at a fair price, but the chain passed the pain directly to the customer as inflation hammered the economy. Menu prices had surged, nearly 9% in some markets by 2025. A breakfast for a family of 4 became a $100 commitment rather than a cheap roadside stop. The working-class families that formed the bedrock of their clientele simply couldn't afford it anymore. They stopped visiting because they could not justify the bill rather than because they disliked the food. Traffic figures dropped 7% in late 2025 and proved that taking away the value proposition from a value brand leaves nothing but empty tables. A grim reality exists that no amount of rebranding can fix, because Cracker Barrel's customers are disappearing. The brand has historically relied heavily on the 65-plus demographic of retirees and travelers. Many of these older customers stopped eating out due to health concerns post-2020, and natural attrition had taken a massive toll by 2026. No one is available to replace them? Gen Z views Cracker Barrel as a cringe place where their grandparents go. The old country store aesthetic reads as ancient history rather than nostalgia to a 20-year-old. The chain is aging out of existence as their loyalists fade away and the youth have zero interest in walking through the door. The genius of Cracker Barrel was always the retail trap, where customers had to exit through the gift shop. This accounted for 20% of their total revenue for years. Few people need to buy overpriced candles, cast iron skillets, or rock candy on a road trip in the age of Amazon. Retail sales had plummeted over 8% by fiscal 2026. The vast front porch empire of rocking chairs and tchotchkes stopped moving inventory. A massive profit engine became a dusty limit. People were walking straight through the store without stopping while keeping their eyes glued to their phones and ignoring the curated nostalgia that used to get them to open their wallets. Cracker Barrel spent $36 million in 2019 to buy Maple Street Biscuit Company. In an attempt to capture the younger market, they couldn't get into the main stores. The plan failed. The subsidiary became a financial drain instead of providing the rapid growth they promised investors. The company announced the closure of 14 Maple Street locations in late 2025, which represented nearly 20% of the entire chain. This was an admission of defeat. The capital they desperately needed to fix the main restaurants had been burned on a side project that stalled out and left them with fewer resources to fight the main fire burning in their core business. Recent visitors may have noticed that the famous hospitality is fraying. The company implemented a new labor model in 2024 that simplified roles to cut costs, which really meant cutting staff and making the remaining servers do more work. The predictable result saw wait times explode while tables sat dirty. Stressed and overworked employees running on fumes replaced the warm greeting that defined the brand for decades. Service is the only true differentiator in the hospitality business. Customers feel it immediately when frontline staff are treated like line items on a spreadsheet. The cold reality of mediocre food becomes impossible to ignore once that warmth is gone. Texas Roadhouse was eating Cracker Barrel's lunch, while the latter was busy painting walls white. The steakhouse chain has become everything Cracker Barrel used to be by remaining loud, fun, packed, and perceived as high value. Their stock has soared while Cracker Barrel's crashed. They leaned into their identity of peanuts on the floor and loud country music, while Cracker Barrel tried to run away from theirs. This offers a lesson in brand management. Texas Roadhouse proved that Americans still love a country theme if it feels alive. Cracker Barrel proved that trying to be everything to everyone results in being nothing to anyone. The cultural landmine they stepped on is also impossible to ignore. Cracker Barrel tried to thread a needle that didn't exist. They infuriated their conservative rural base when they posted about Pride Month in 2023. They then annoyed the progressives they were trying to attract when they tried to apologize or pivot back. This angered everyone simultaneously. Neutral ground is a dangerous place in the polarized environment of the mid-2020s. They alienated the people who actually bought the biscuits by trying to signal virtue to a customer base that doesn't exist for them. They became a punchline in the culture war and a place that neither side wanted to claim as their own. The stock is hovering near historic lows in January 2026. The dividend is a ghost of its former self. The strategic transformation is 2 years in, with terrifying results, as revenue forecasts are down to $3.2 billion, and adjusted earnings have been slashed by nearly half. The company is closing stores, shrinking its footprint, and desperately trying to stop the bleeding. The new loyalty program, Cracker Barrel Rewards, has millions of members who aren't spending enough to fill the hole left by the departing boomers. The turnaround plan has failed to turn anything around, and instead, just documented the decline. History suggests the odds of saving this icon are slim. It is almost impossible to pull up once a restaurant chain enters this specific type of death spiral, where they cut quality to save money, drive away customers, and force more cuts. We saw this exact pattern with both Howard Johnson's and Bennigan's. Cracker Barrel is currently following that same path. Those rocking chairs on the front porch will soon be nothing more than firewood unless they can miraculously rediscover the magic of 1969 and convince a new generation that country is cool again. Cracker Barrel's downfall came from 1,000 small cuts, like a rejected logo, a lukewarm beer, a removed antique, and a price hike too many, rather than a single mistake. They forgot that their only product was a feeling of home, and nothing was left to buy once they sold that out for efficiency. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel to see the biggest business stories unfold. We will be here for the next chapter, regardless of what it brings.